There's something about family houses that makes the air heavier during celebrations. Too many photographs on the walls, too many voices in the hallway, too much history pressed into the floorboards. I remember stepping inside that evening and thinking the house was trying too hard to look cheerful. The balloons tied to the banister, the smell of roasted meat and perfume, the laughter coming from the kitchen, it all felt like an act that hadn't rehearsed enough times. My sister, Claire, was glowing. She had that kind of glow you don't fake. Not makeup, not lighting, not even expensive jewelry. She had the glow of someone who thought she'd won. She hugged me tighter than usual, whispered, "Thank you for coming," as though it would have been an option not to. Her fiancé, Matthew, stood beside her, hand resting on her lower back, grinning like a man who believed in the future. He shook my hand too hard, but I forgave him. He was nervous, and nerves are forgivable. Mom bustled in the kitchen, controlling the evening the way only she knew how. Every tray had a place, every chair an owner, every joke a stage direction. She fluttered between guests, smoothing her dress with one hand, gesturing with the other, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "This night is important," she kept saying. "For all of us." Important. The word stuck in my ear. I didn't know why yet. I tried to settle into the role I was meant to play: proud brother, grateful son, supportive guest. I made small talk with relatives I hadn't seen since last Thanksgiving. I laughed at Matthew's friends, who told stories about college dorms and drunken mistakes as if those were the only proofs of loyalty a man could have. I smiled at Claire, who floated from group to group, as radiant as the diamond on her finger. But beneath it, there was an itch. The house hummed differently tonight. Like the air vents were whispering in a language I should have known, but had forgotten. Dinner stretched into speeches, and speeches melted into toasts. Glasses clinked. Dad, always quiet, said something about the future of our family, and people applauded louder than they needed to. I drank water, not wine, and felt like the only sober person in a crowd drunk on optimism. And then it happened. It wasn't dramatic. No thunderclap, no broken glass, no gasp of the crowd. Just me, stepping into the upstairs hallway, looking for the bathroom, when I heard it. Two voices. My mother's and Claire's. Not raised, not shouting, but urgent in the way that makes you lean closer without meaning to. "You promised this would never come back," Mom hissed. "I know," Claire said, and her voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard since we were children. "But what if he finds out?" "He won't," Mom said sharply. "Not if you keep your mouth shut. Do you understand? You've started over. Matthew doesn't need to know about him." Silence. My sister breathing too fast. My mother's footsteps shifting. I froze outside the door, my hand hovering near the frame. My pulse hammered in my throat so loud I worried they'd hear it. "Mom," Claire whispered, "I was married. It's not just some mistake I can erase. It's not." "Stop," Mom snapped. "That life is gone. Buried. If Matthew finds out, everything collapses. The family, this house, everything we've worked for. You'll ruin it all. And for what? For honesty? Honesty doesn't feed a marriage. Stability does." I stepped back like I'd been shoved. The hallway tilted. "Married?" She said. "Married?" My sister? My glowing, perfect, innocent sister had been married before. And Matthew, the man downstairs, the man planning his life around her, had no idea. I gripped the banister and tried to breathe. The voices inside went quiet. A door creaked. I moved fast, down the hall, back into the noise of the party. My hand shook when I lifted a glass I didn't want. My smile cracked when someone asked if I was okay. I lied. They believed me. The rest of the evening blurred. Music, laughter, clinking forks. Claire danced with Matthew under the warm glow of the chandelier. Mom stood at the edge of the room, clapping in rhythm, pretending her smile was just as bright as theirs. Nobody saw me slip out to the porch. Nobody saw the way I stared at the streetlight like it could explain anything. My chest burned. Anger, confusion, betrayal, they all fought for space. Not because my sister had a past, but because of the way it was hidden. The way my mother had sharpened her voice into a weapon to protect a lie. The way everyone around me was celebrating a future built on silence. The night ended with hugs and goodbyes, the kind that sound sweet but taste like ash. Claire kissed my cheek and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll make you proud." I wanted to ask, by lying? By building a marriage on rotten boards? But my mouth stayed shut. For now. I left the house with the noise still ringing in my ears. The family home behind me looked warm, welcoming, perfect. Inside, the walls were stuffed with secrets. And now I carried one of them, too. Back inside, the hall felt louder, music too cheerful, lights too warm, laughter too eager to prove itself real. When you know a secret, rooms stop being rooms and turn into evidence. The chandelier wasn't a chandelier anymore. It was a spotlight searching for a face that wouldn't hold. I decided something on the spot. I wouldn't be the idiot who detonates a life on a hunch. I would verify. I would walk this room like a quiet detective and make the truth sit down. I started with Matthew. He stood near the dessert table, arguing with a chocolate fountain as if it were a budget line. "There he is," he said, relief in his voice. "Saved me from more speeches, thank God." He clapped my shoulder. "How's my future brother-in-law feeling?" "Proud," I said, because lying is contagious at parties. "When did you know?" "About Claire?" He smiled. "About 3 months in. She told me she'd been waiting for someone who made her feel safe enough to say yes. Wild, right? Me's safe." He laughed, then leaned closer. "We're thinking fall for the wedding. Fast, but when you know, you know." The sentence hit me sideways. Safe enough to say yes. Not safe enough to tell the truth. I asked the next question as gently as I could. "You two ever talk about pasts? Old relationships?" "Of course," he said, shrugging. "Nothing serious. High school boyfriends, a messy couple of years in her 20s. But who didn't have those?" I nodded and swallowed the thing in my throat that wanted to name itself. "You deserve someone who gives you everything," I said. He took it as a toast. I meant it as a warning to myself. I moved through the crowd with a goal: collect corroboration without becoming a monster. Claire's best friend, Lena, stood with a flute of Prosecco, eyes bright from 3 compliments in a row. "You look incredible," I said, because she did and kindness costs nothing. "Hey, random, when did you and Claire get closest? The kind of close where you'd help her bury a body." "Since forever," she laughed. "But especially after, well." She stopped, recalibrated. "After her big breakup. Post-grad years." "Right," I said. "That was what, 2018? End of 2018. She answered too fast, then bit her lip. "I mean, why?" "Planning speeches," I lied. "Timeline stuff." She relaxed. "Just don't say second time's the charm. My mom already did that during hair, and Claire turned the color of a stop sign." She winced. "I could kill her." "Your mom has a terrible sense of humor," I said, and filed the phrase second time into the folder in my head where rage and math hold hands. I needed paper, not gossip. The venue had a small reception desk by the coat check, a lacquered half-moon with a bowl of mints for bad breath and bad news. I asked for the Wi-Fi password with the confidence of a man who looks like he belongs. The attendant slid me a card. I thanked her, drifted to a quiet table near the wall, and opened the county website. If you've ever looked a bureaucratic portal in the eye while your life is sinking, you know the exact flavor of that nausea. Form fields. Drop-downs. Search by name. Claire's first and last. County. Hours. The search hiccuped, then produced a line item like a cough. Marriage license. Issued. November 2018. Status. Registered. Not voided. Not denied. Registered. I clicked. The description was maddeningly sparse. No partner name in the public index. No scanned images without an in-person request. But the file number glowed on the screen like a dare. I took a photo. Another search under Claire's maiden name plus a different county, the one our aunt used to live in, yielded nothing. Fine. November 2018 was enough to hold in my palm without crushing it. A voice broke my concentration. You okay, sweetheart? Mom. She had a radar for screens and secrets. She stood in shadow like a stage manager, smiling for the room, speaking only to the scene. I'm fine, I said too evenly. Her eyes flicked to my phone and then back to my face. Don't bring work to a party. This isn't work, I said. It's family. For a heartbeat, she dropped the smile. The tendons in her neck went taut. We will not do this here. We're doing exactly this here, I said softly. Because here is where you told my sister to keep her mouth shut. She didn't flinch outwardly, but I saw the hit land. You misunderstood. Then correct me, I said. Right now. She considered me the way a fencer considers distance. How far the blade must travel, how many steps she has left. Claire was young, she said finally. Impulsive. It was a mistake. Did she get divorced? I asked. The word sounded porcelain. She moved on, Mom said. Did she get divorced? Her eyes hardened. You don't get to interrogate me in my house. This is a rented hall, I said, and even I heard the cruelty. And I'm not interrogating. I'm asking a yes or no question for the man who's about to be legally bound to a person he doesn't actually know. She smiled then, the kind that means I will burn this room down to keep the story intact. You will not ruin this. I held up my phone with the county result on the screen. I'm not ruining anything, I said. I'm reading. She leaned in so close I could see the smudge of foundation near her hairline. If you love this family, she whispered, you will let tonight be tonight. You will speak to Claire tomorrow. You will not embarrass her. You will not humiliate me. There it was, the violence of me disguised as the grammar of us. I put the phone down slowly. I'm going to give Claire a chance to tell him, I said. That's my mercy. It's more than either of you gave him. She straightened. You will destroy your sister. No, I said. She did that to herself the moment she decided someone else's future was an acceptable casualty of her past. For a moment, I thought she might slap me. Instead, she did what she always does. She left. Not walking away. Withdrawing air. I sat with the search result burning my thigh through my pocket and tried to remember how to be a sane person in a pretty room. I found Claire on the balcony that juts off the hall, the one where people go to smoke even when they've quit, where couples step out to say things they can't inside. She stood gripping the railing, smile turned off, cheeks wind flushed. When she saw me, she smiled again out of habit. The habit crumbled when she registered my face. Walk with me, I said. Not a question. We drifted to the far corner, away from the door, still within the halo of the party, but muffled enough to belong to ourselves. I didn't stage a speech. I didn't have to. The words arranged themselves, plain. I heard you and Mom upstairs, I said. I know about before. I looked up the license. I need to hear you say the rest out loud. Her eyes glassed. Please don't. I'm giving you a chance, I said. Don't ask me to give you a cover, too. She swallowed. Her hand hovered near her throat like she wanted to keep a secret from escaping. I married him, she said. It was a mistake. We separated. It's over. On paper? I asked. She looked away. It's complicated. Then it's not over, I said. It will be, she whispered. I filed. He didn't respond. We moved. Life kept going. And Matthew, I asked, where does he fit in the administrative queue of your life? Her face collapsed into something almost honest. I love him, she said, like it could be currency. I wanted to start fresh. Mom said. I don't care what Mom said. I snapped, then forced my voice back down. You are walking him blindfolded toward a cliff, and you think the romance is that you're holding his hand. She flinched. What do you want from me? The truth, I said. To him. Tonight. She shook her head instantly. I can't. He'll leave. He'll hate me. Everything will. Everything will become real, I said. That's what happens when you stop writing fiction about your life. Tears gathered and didn't fall. Please, she said. Give me a week. I'll tell him after we file the last. No, I said. A week is a lie with frosting. She stared past me at the parking lot lights, tiny constellations that don't care about vows. If you love me, I do, I said. Enough to refuse to be your accomplice. She covered her face with her hands. When she dropped them, something steely had replaced the pleading. If you say anything in there, she said, chin lifted, I will never forgive you. Then hate me in the daylight, I said. It's still daylight. We stood there breathing like we were being graded on it. In the hall behind us, a cheer went up as someone dropped a glass and turned it into applause. I won't do it, she said finally. Not tonight. All right, I said, calm as paper. Then I will. She didn't move to stop me. She didn't grab my sleeve or promise redemption. She turned her back and braced her palms on the railing like it was the only thing keeping her from falling forward. Inside, the DJ switched from nostalgia to triumph. I went to the restroom not because I needed it, but because I wanted a mirror and a door that locked. I washed my hands longer than necessary, then dried them on paper towels that didn't ask why. In the stall, I typed 3 sentences into my notes app, the spine of a toast that would not be a toast. I love my sister enough to tell the truth. There is a previous legal marriage on record, unresolved. Matthew, you deserve a choice made with all the facts. Stark, unadorned, cruel only if you think anesthesia is kindness. I didn't want revenge. I wanted consent to exist in the same room as commitment. When I stepped out, Dad was there, as if summoned by some old circuitry that still connects fathers to bathrooms and sons to trouble. He looked at me like he used to, when a neighbor's window broke, and he hoped it wasn't our ball. Walk, he asked. We took a slow loop along the back corridor where caterers park carts and staff pretend not to hear the 7th straight toast. He didn't ask what. He asked how bad. I told him. He took it in the way only a man who has practiced endurance takes hits. The face barely moves. The eyes do all the work. The mouth saves its energy for when it can build something. You're right to tell him, he said finally. You're also right to offer her the chance first. It's not your fault she didn't take it. I don't want to blow up Mom's night, I said. Even in fury, the child in me still wanted to keep the thermostat set to her comfort. He smiled without amusement. Your mother's nights are made of their own weather, he said. We can't stop her storms. We can stop pretending they water the garden. We reached the door and paused, 2 men carrying a decision like a table through a too narrow hallway. You'll be kind, he asked. I'll be clean, I said. That's kind enough. he answered. Back in the hall, speeches were stacking again. Friends, then an uncle who thinks he invented humor, then Mom with a microphone she treats like a wand. I moved toward the event manager and asked, very politely, for 30 seconds at the end. To toast the couple. She smiled. Of course. Brother of the bride always. My phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go, then slid my thumb. A low voice, male, careful. Is this Claire's brother? Yes. This is Ezra, he said, and the name landed like a stone. We were married. We are married. He paused. Your mother has my number. The floor moved. I didn't. How did you get mine? She asked me not to call, he said. I agreed for too long. But I got a text tonight from a cousin I barely know they're celebrating. He sent a photo. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have to be the one to. He trailed off. What do you want? I asked, because apparently this night was for hard questions asked softly. Nothing, he said. I want her to tell the truth before she builds another house out of it. Get your documents in order, I said. Tomorrow someone from this family will be calling you who isn't my mother. I'll answer, he said. The line clicked quiet. I slipped the phone into my pocket and looked at the room with new eyes. The centerpiece flowers were hydrangeas, Mom's favorite. The cake topper was 2 porcelain birds, ridiculous and beautiful. The DJ's playlist had been obvious from the first track and somehow still worked. It was a nice party. It deserved an honest ending. The mic squealed once, then settled. Mom took the stage and did what she does. Told a story about Claire losing her first tooth and Matthew fixing the leaky sink last month. Knitted those unrelated threads into a sweater called Meant to Be. People clapped like the story had rescued them from their own. Before we close, the event manager said brightly, a special toast from the man of the hour's favorite future brother-in-law. I didn't correct her. I stepped into the glow and felt the heat. My hands didn't shake. Not because I'm brave. Because I was done lying to rooms. I lifted the glass and looked at Claire first. Then at Matthew. Then at Mom. Then at Dad, whose face contained grief and permission in equal measure. I'll be brief, I said. And the room went quiet in that particular way parties do when they sense they're about to become real. I'll be brief, I said. My own voice sounded foreign through the microphone, as if someone else had borrowed my throat. Glasses stilled. Forks froze midair. Claire stared at me with wide eyes, and Matthew tilted his head like a man trying to guess the ending of a story before it's told. I love my sister, I began, which is why I owe her something better than silence. Tonight you're celebrating a future together. But futures deserve the full truth, not half-truths. A murmur rippled through the crowd, the way whispers do when people sense a fracture in the floorboards. There is a marriage license, I said, steady now. Issued in 2018. Registered. Still valid. Claire has been married before. That marriage was never legally dissolved. The silence that followed was the kind you feel in your ribs. Matthew blinked. He didn't laugh, didn't scoff, didn't even deny. He just looked at Claire like she'd become a stranger in real time. Claire dropped her glass. It shattered on the parquet and splashed champagne like evidence. Mom surged forward, as though sheer volume could rewrite the script. Stop it, she hissed, snatching the microphone. This is slander. This is family business. Dad rose from his chair, voice firmer than I'd ever heard. Enough, Margaret. He's telling the truth. The crowd gasped harder at that than at my words. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish ripped from water. Claire crumpled into her chair, face in her hands. Matthew stood. His hand shook, but his voice didn't. Claire, he said, low but audible in the hall's hush. "Is it true?" She lifted her face, wet with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wanted to tell you. I thought if we just filed, if it was finished, then—" "That's not an answer," he cut in. His jaw trembled with fury. "Yes or no?" Her silence said yes. Matthew's chair scraped against the floor as he turned and walked out. No theatrics, no yelling, just the kind of exit that leaves a scar in the carpet. Mom collapsed into a chair, fanning herself like a fainting actress. Relatives whispered. Friends shifted uncomfortably. Dad put his hand on my shoulder, brief, heavy, proud. I set the microphone back on the stand. "The party's over," I said, not loud, not cruel, just final. The air outside was sharp, cold enough to make your lungs sting. Matthew was there, standing under a streetlight, staring at the pavement like it had answers. I walked up slowly, not wanting to ambush him. "You didn't deserve that," I said. He looked at me hollow-eyed. "She lied. How do you marry someone who lies about being married?" "You don't," I said. "You walk away before you're tied to it." He nodded once, jaw working. "Thank you," he muttered. "I hate you for it, but thank you." Then he walked into the night, his shadow stretching behind him like a severed cord. I let him go. Some truths don't heal, they cauterize. The next day the house was silent in a way it hadn't been in years. No laughter, no clinking dishes, no carefully arranged smiles. Claire locked herself in her room. Mom refused to speak to me, her glare sharper than knives. Dad sat at the kitchen table, reading the paper without turning the page. "You did the right thing," he said finally. "It doesn't feel like it." "Truth rarely does," he answered. Claire eventually emerged, eyes red, voice hoarse. "You ruined my life," she said. "No," I replied softly. "You tried to build a new life on top of an old one. I just refused to help you bury it alive." She turned away, shaking. There was no victory in it, no satisfaction, only the dull ache of something that had to be done. Weeks later, I sat on a bench at the local park, watching families stroll by, children laughing, couples holding hands. Normal life. Life without secrets. My phone buzzed. A text from Matthew. "I'm moving on. Thank you for telling me." Painful as it was, I needed the truth. I stared at the message for a long time, then pocketed the phone. Across the pond, a pair of swans glided side by side. Graceful, honest in their silence. I breathed in cold air and exhaled something heavier. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't triumph. This was survival. And for once, survival felt enough.